right, y'all. So our last episode was too juicy to just let it stop right there. So we are gonna pick back up for part two. We were talking about learning the hard way. How did we learn the hard way? What happened to us in order for us to know, to move forward?
Absolutely, and I feel like the women didn't get to speak.
Right.
I feel like the fellas, they got into it, y'all. They got into it. They were into it deep, and we appreciate y'all for sharing from you guys' point of view. However, the girlies, we go through stuff too.
Absolutely.
How do you feel, Shondaya, about that?
I feel like I grew up in a household where my dad was an alcoholic. And my mom, she stayed, for a long time. I was just used to him coming in late, them fighting all the time, and just fighting over, like, yelling and people just being at each other's throats all the time was normal for me. And I yell, like I'm always, when I'm upset, I have no, like, I feel like I'm not being heard, so I had to realize, but it was told to me, like, I can't hear what you're trying to get to me because you're screaming. I need you to bring it down. And I never knew, like, I didn't understand that. I'm like, I'm just saying what I need to say, because I would never be disrespectful.
Right.
I would never be like that, but I just had to be at a certain octave in order to feel like I was being heard.
Right.
And I would drink too. Like, once I got older, I felt like, okay, drinking, it suppresses my feelings, or it loosens me up. And so I had to realize, no, it doesn't take the problem away.
Right.
It doesn't take the problem away. You're still going to continue to go through the same things after you sober up and realize that life is still life. So I think for me, it does have a lot to do with your environment. What you're used to seeing. Like they say, when you see these things all the time, either it's right and you don't want to be like that, or it's wrong, but you're still like, listen, my parents did it. I see it around me, and I'm just going to go in that same direction, because sometimes it's easier because you feel like you learned that, you know, and it's not something that is right, but you just feel like that's what you need to do. So I think for me, that's it for me.
And did it feel normal sometimes?
And like what you said, it never felt normal.
Right.
Like, I mean, my dad, he would come in, I will never forget, this one time he came, and I don't know how, because he always drove. Like, he would always, and we always did stuff.
Right.
We always did stuff. I was always with him.
Right.
He's a functioning
He
alcoholic.
was a functioning alcoholic. I remember he went and bought a car. Like, he went to the dealership and drove off the lot with a vehicle, and they pulled him over. They pulled him over right after that. But I knew it wasn't right.
Oh, shout out to my father. Shout out to my father.
He is, my dad has been sober. He's been sober for, I believe, like 12, 13 years now, and he's doing great. Amazing. But it never felt normal. It didn't. It didn't feel, I knew it was not right. I knew it wasn't right for them to be fighting all the time. Even my grandmother would get into it with them, and just, I knew it wasn't safe. For me, it was more of a safety thing, because you're coming in, you can't function, like, you could barely stand up, and I know that you just drove from wherever you came from, but as a kid, we would go to Splish Splash, we would go to all the water parks in the summertime, we would be doing all of this stuff, we would even bike ride, like, we would just do stuff.
Right.
And at that time, when I was a little girl, no, it probably didn't seem wrong, because he would be riding the bike with a 40. So, like, now, I know that it was wrong, but it didn't seem like it, because I was a kid. I felt good spending time with my dad.
I was gonna ask you, do you feel like he still showed up for you as
yes,
in the fatherly role?
He showed up for me all the time. I was always with him. It was no me without him, and I'm so grateful for that. But now I know how dangerous it could have been, and how stressed it made my mom. Like, it created that dynamic that it wasn't really that great, but
So it appeared to you not normal, but it appeared normal at the time when you was a child. You didn't know.
Right.
But as you grew up, you start seeing that this ain't really normal.
And feeling how alcohol make you feel. Like when I actually
feel
have
great,
my own,
you know what I'm saying?
when I have my own, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, you know, this is what it feels like, you know, when you really experience it yourself. That's with anything,
That's
you know.
right,
That's
though.
just like what you guys are talking about. When you go out and you sell drugs, I ain't never sold no drugs though. But I'm saying I could imagine you actually doing it, you know, and you see it when you actually get a feel for it. You see what it takes,
The money,
you know,
all
the
that
right.
stuff,
You know how it's gonna make you feel, so you never really know.
That's why it's hard to stop certain things because you really think you're fixing the problem, but the problem is still there. You know what I'm saying? You know.
Absolutely.
So when did you bump your head and figure it out?
I mean, I don't know when I actually figured it out. I'm still figuring it out. You know, it's a process every day. But what I will say is I like something that you said about your environment. So the question originally, y'all, was about what did we learn now that we weren't taught, or nobody taught us, right? And I feel like we apparently were taught something inadvertently. Like we were all taught by our environment, what we see, what we went through, their experience, right? So maybe somebody didn't say, hey, do this, but they showed us to do it. You know what I mean? So I think that a lot of stuff, like you said, you seen your dad and he would drink and stuff like that, and they would argue, your parents fought. My parents fought. You know, I went through that, and it was very difficult as a child to hear that and see that. And so what it taught me was I didn't like that. And when I grew up, I didn't want to deal with that. So I tried to look for everything that would be the opposite. But guess what I found? I'm in the same situation. You know, like I'm doing that to other people because that's what I learned. And I didn't even realize it until somebody brought it to my attention, was like, hey, you're hurting me. This is what you're doing. And I realized, dang, I've been trying to be the opposite of what I see. And because of that, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So it really took some accountability, really taking the time, right, to really look in the accountability, looking in the mirror and saying, hey, you know, I'm the problem. I'm the problem. And it's okay. You know, we all have to go through that. We all be the problem sometimes. And it's okay.
Right.
But you know, as soon as you find out you're the problem, then now you got to work on yourself.
Right. And to piggyback on that, I think it's very hard for people to admit they're the problem. You know, because I was that person. You know.
Woo!
And let me.
I love it.
No, like,
I gotta jump in on this.
Okay, all right. Like you have to, coming from what you just said, you had somebody tell you basically that you were hurting them.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I needed that. I needed to hear. I probably did hear it before that time, but I wasn't at a mature enough place in my life to listen. You know, because I feel like your ears are what matter. Like you need to really hear and how you feel about the person. You know, I don't want to be hurting you. So what is it? Because a lot of times you feel like your feelings are the only ones that matter.
Yeah.
You know, you feel like, okay, well, I don't feel like I'm doing that to you. Or I don't feel like this should make you feel like that. So you don't take into account how it's making the other person feel.
True.
But you have to think about just how you feel about your feelings, and you want them to hear you. You have to also listen.
That's right,
And then when you start doing that, then you can create better relationships with people. And then you also can feel good about the decisions that you make when you're making decisions that may not favor what somebody else wants. But you have to get comfortable with yourself, and I think that is a really big thing. To be wrong, to be accountable, like, you know, and to have integrity. I'm really big on that. You want people to feel how you would want to feel, and it's not always about you. Everybody's not the same. And everybody's love is different. So I don't know. Everybody doesn't know like what I went through as a child and why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, and it's not your fault. You know, but to heal from that and to move on is what is gonna make you a good person.
And having patience.
And having patience.
I want to hear what Tommy got to say. I'm intrigued to hear what Tommy got to say.
I wanted to jump in when
He's
she
a
was
good
saying.
man, Savannah.
That's a
good man.
I wanted to jump in when she was like, well, was your father there? You know what I mean? And let me know if I'm talking too much.
No, you good.
One day we had an argument, like, and I was like, I had to take a minute. I'm like, hold up. Your dad, all right, he was drinking, he was drunk, but he still was there. Drunk and all. she got offended by it. But I later on, I talked to my father-in-law. Shout out to my father-in-law, Mikey D. You heard? But he was like, bro, I ain't taking. He was like, I appreciated that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he still was there through all his troubles. You know, there. Like, he still was there making it happen the best way he knew how. You know what I mean? So I respected it as a man. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, my dad, that nigga wasn't there.
I mean,
he was thugging it by himself. You know what I mean? He chose
some
thug
people
it. But I still love him. But you know, he still was on.
Some people ain't had that. Some people ain't.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
I had a father, but I had a rough father, bro. Some days I wish he wouldn't have made it home. I hate to say that on camera, but that's how bad he used to be for me. You feel what I'm saying? So some people ain't have that. And I look at the day, and Lord forgive me for saying that, and I always ask him to forgive me, but that's how I felt for years. You know what I'm saying? Some people didn't have that. You know what I'm saying? I have a thing that I do every day. You know what I'm saying? Every day I get up, I face myself. When I do my hygiene, I look at myself in the mirror. I talk to myself. I watch motivational speaking. I watch inspirational talks and speeches. Because before you can really attack the world, you got to deal with yourself.
Absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying? And most people don't practice dealing with themselves before they face the world. You know what I'm saying? You know, you got to trust the process before the access. And half of the process is facing yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Just to jump on what you're saying, some people, I feel like some people are not themselves. Like they're scared to be the real selves. That's why you have all this senseless stuff in the world. Most of the time, like people doing
Dumb
stupidness.
Stuff, yeah.
You know what I mean? Doing just off the wall stuff. They're killing kids because they haven't really grown into themselves or actually faced themselves. So you know.
Yeah, because a lot of people they don't want to face themselves. They want to pretty much they don't really have time these days to face themselves because they're seeing everybody else. And right now, everything now is on a cool thing. Everything is cool. This is cool. Yeah. That's cool. Killing is cool. Everybody wants to kill everybody. Nobody don't know the consequences though. So they don't even know how to look at themselves until they get to prison. That's where you actually start paying attention to yourself. And sometimes it'll be 10 years before you actually understand, I'm being here for the rest of my life. A lot of cats go places and it don't hit them until they went through their rough spot and then they realize, man, I really messed up. I threw away 10, 20, 15, whether you on the streets, whether you in a relationship. Some people be in long relationships. Right. You understand what I'm saying? And wasted so many years of their life, but they could have been doing something else. With somebody moved on in their life. And you wasted valuable time because you never took time to look at yourself, you know? So.
All right, y'all. So that's wrapping up our second part to our Learn the Hard Way. It was never taught. Let us know how you feeling down in the comments if you can relate to what we just talked about. Grind Time ATL.
WBG Grind Time. Peace out.
What's with all that drama that they be talking? It's time for Willie Green to get the podcast running. It's our time. Grind time.
ATL.
It's our time.
The podcast.
We on time. What they gonna say when we start speaking truth?